Desperate to escape her ex, she hugged a stranger. What she discovered changed everything forever. Amidst the vibrant chaos of the community festival, with flares of laughter echoing around her, Sarah felt utterly alone. The sweet scent of popcorn mixed with the sugary allure of cotton candy, yet all that surrounded her was suffocating loneliness. She clutched her children's hands tightly, but their joy felt miles away, buried under the weight of her dark memories. Memories of a past filled with manipulation and fear, creeping like shadows, threatening her hard-fought peace. As the laughter of others rang in her ears, desperation clawed at her chest. Was this it? A life spent juggling 2 jobs in a bustling city, fighting to keep the demons of her abusive ex at bay while raising her 2 precious children? How had it come to this? Then, as hope began to flicker weakly within her, she saw him, a man standing to the side, his eyes lost in the crowd. Instinct overpowering doubt, she wrapped her arms around him tight, surprising herself and him. It was John, a kind-hearted veteran who bore the weight of a war that haunted him in silence. They stood there, 2 wounded souls united by a single act, a hug. In that moment, something shifted. There was an undeniable spark, a shared understanding. Sarah felt the armor she meticulously built around her heart crack just a little, as if for the first time in years, hope dared to rise. They exchanged stories under the glow of festival lights. John's voice was gentle, revealing a man who faced his own battles by serving his country, yet had come home with scars no one could see. Sarah listened, her heart swelling with empathy. Here was someone who understood struggles that society too often ignored. They bonded over their pasts, her as a single mother, the stigma attached to her courage, and him wrestling with PTSD and vulnerability. But the festival buzzed unhindered as they sought refuge in each other. They became each other's anchors in a tumultuous world. Together, they navigated the harsh realities of their daily lives. As they shared laughter and tears, it felt as if they could forge a new story amid the wreckage. But society's harsh judgments loomed overhead. People whispered behind their backs, casting doubt and prejudice that threatened to drown their fragile connection. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As their bond deepened, Sarah received a job offer that promised to turn her life around, a hope tinged with fear. Could she really grasp this chance for stability? Just as a flicker of optimism illuminated her worries, a call from her ex shattered her peace, reigniting old anxieties. The weight of uncertainty and fear pressed down on her. Would she lose her way once again? With John's past threatening to emerge in his mind, Sarah stood at the edge of a decision. Could she face the shadows of her past and let her story be rewritten? Or would she falter, lost in the chaos of her fears? The tension hung heavy in the air, leaving her heart racing as she prepared for what was to come next. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the festival. Sarah stood there, phone pressed to her ear, her heart racing with each word her ex spoke. The venom in his voice slithered through her mind, the same old lies wrapped in a shiny facade of concern. You need me, Sarah. You can't manage without me. The kids need their father. Each sentence tightened the knot of dread in her stomach. As she responded, her voice quivered, but she fought to steady it. I don't need you. The kids and I are fine. She glanced at John, who had turned from the booth he was at, concern etched on his face. That brief meeting of their eyes was a lifeline, anchoring her to the reality of her strength. With every word she spoke, she felt a small part of her past unravel, one thread at a time. Could she really be free? When the call ended, silence enveloped her, thick and heavy. She took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill her lungs. Defiance burned inside her, a fire she hadn't felt in years. I won't let him control me anymore, she whispered to herself, barely audible above the festival noise. John approached, concern mingled with admiration in his gaze. You said no to him, right? That's a big step. She nodded but felt the weight still pressing against her chest. He's good at twisting my thoughts, making me feel weak. Don't let him. You're stronger than you think, he replied, his words a balm to her frayed nerves. The way he looked at her, as if seeing the warrior behind the survivor, filled her with a strange sense of possibility. They made their way through the stalls, laughter peppering the air, but Sarah felt a pull inside, an urge to break away from the crowd and dive deeper into the truth of herself. What if I let go? She mused aloud, surprised by the question in her own mind. What would it mean to let her fears dissipate like mist under the sun? Let go of the past? John asked, tilting his head thoughtfully. That's hard, but not impossible. His words stirred something within her, a flicker of hope ignited by his unwavering belief. Would you? Let go of what haunts you? Her voice trembled with vulnerability, fearing his response even as she craved connection. He took a moment, gaze distant, searching for the right words. Part of me still does. It's a battle every day. But it's worth fighting for a moment of peace. Her heart ached for him. They were both searching for solace in a storm, trying to battle unseen demons. She reached out, her hand brushing against his, and for a brief moment, the world faded away. There was strength in connection and healing found in shared pain. But just as Sarah felt a swell of hope, her phone buzzed again, shattering the fragile space they had carved for themselves. It was a text from her ex. The message was simple yet menacing. I want to let you get away from me that easily. John's concerned expression mirrored the turmoil inside her. Would she let her past dictate her future? Was this the moment she had to decide, to finally take a stand against everything that had brought her to her knees? Her heart raced as she prepared to respond. The stakes had never felt so high, and the chaos inside her screamed for clarity. Would she face him down for good, or fall back into the shadows where he thrived? With every fragment of courage she could muster, she knew she had a decision to make that could shatter the chains of her past forever. And as she opened the message, she wondered if this was the moment everything would change again. Would she summon the courage to fight? The air was thick with anticipation, the festival fading into the background as she braced for what lay ahead. The message glared at her from the screen, words twisting in her stomach. I want to let you get away from me that easily. It felt like ice water coursing through her veins. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but for a heartbeat, she was paralyzed, suffocated under the weight of that familiar dread. John stepped closer, his breath warm and steady beside her. You don't have to respond right now, he urged, his voice a low murmur. Take a moment. She looked at him, searching for the reassurance reflected in his eyes. He was right, she didn't have to respond. But inside her, a storm raged. Each second that ticked by felt like an invitation for her past to creep back in, wrapping its claws around her heart. Taking a breath, she turned her gaze back to the festival surrounding them. Laughter floated on the air, lights twinkled in the growing evening, and families strolled by with cotton candy in hand. It was a world filled with joy, a world she wanted to belong to, free from the ties that bound her. Why does it still hurt? She whispered, leaning closer to John, as if he could provide the answers to questions she had asked so many times before. His eyes softened. Because it's a part of you. Those memories, they don't just disappear. But you can choose how they affect you. His words spiraled in her mind, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a shift inside herself. I can choose, she echoed, half in wonder. The idea felt like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Yes. She had spent so long letting him dictate her emotions, allowing his words to cast shadows over her life. But maybe now she could step into her own light. Sarah straightened her shoulders, a newfound determination weaving through her. As if sensing the change, John smiled, an encouraging grin that lit up his face. Tell him you're done. Take back your power. His words echoed in her heart like a chant. Done. That one word held the promise of freedom. Would she finally stand up for herself? The weight of the moment pressed down on her, but this time it didn't crush her. Instead, it ignited something. Suddenly her phone buzzed again, a notification from the same thread. With a flutter of apprehension, she opened it. Her ex had sent another message: "You'll regret this, just like you always do." Guilt swept through her, a punch to her gut. But this time, instead of breaking down, she felt something shift inside her. "Regret?" she whispered back, adrenaline coursing through her, pushing her fingers across the screen. "You're mistaken. I am done living in fear." With that small act, defiance swelled in her. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it felt monumental nonetheless. She looked at John, whose eyes held a spark of admiration. "I did it," she breathed, still feeling the energy of her words thrum in the space between them. He grinned, pride evident. "You did. That's just the beginning." But before she could respond, the lights flickered overhead, casting an eerie glow. A shadow moved behind her, and Sarah's stomach churned. She turned. And there he was, her ex, standing at the edge of the crowd, a sinister smile stretching across his face. Panic gripped her heart. She could feel John's hand brush against her back, grounding her, but her breath quickened. Would this be the fight she had dared to summon? As she stood there, caught between the past and the future, Sarah felt a voice inside her whisper. Was this truly the moment she would confront everything? The crowd began to flow around them, but her eyes were locked onto his. The festival noises submerged into quiet as the world fell away. Sarah took a step forward, heart pounding. If he wants a confrontation, then let it be. And as she faced him, the question hung heavy in the air. Would she finally embrace her strength, or would she fall back into the darkness of her past? The tension crackled in the air between Sarah and her ex, a thick silence enveloping them like a shroud. Her heart raced as she squared her shoulders, feeling small in the face of his looming presence. His smile twisted, and for a moment, she saw a flicker of the old him, the manipulative charm that had ensnared her once before. "Sarah," he said, his voice smooth but laced with venom. "I was wondering when you'd finally realize how foolish you are to think you could just walk away." John stepped slightly in front of her, instinctively protective. "You need to leave her alone," he said steadily, his voice firm but calm. Her ex chuckled darkly, as if John had just told a joke. "And who's this? Your new boyfriend?" He leaned closer to Sarah, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "You think he can keep you safe? You belong with me. You always have." She drew a sharp breath, feeling the old fear creep back, but this time, it ignited a fire within her. She was done being his puppet. "No. I don't belong to you. I chose to leave, and I'm not going back." The defiance in her voice surprised even her. It felt like a shield, a barrier against the shadows of her past. Her ex's expression shifted, confusion and anger mingling on his face. "You'll regret this," he warned, his voice low, barely holding back the storm brewing inside him. As he stepped closer, she felt John's presence beside her, a quiet strength anchoring her. In that moment, she realized his support went deeper than mere friendship. He believed in her when she had struggled to believe in herself. "Let us go," John said softly but firmly, his hands still gently resting on the small of her back. Sarah hesitated, her mind swirling with thoughts of confrontation and the urge to stand her ground. But then she noticed the crowd. People were watching. Their faces reflected concern, curiosity, judgment. The pressure was on her, and for a fleeting second, panic threatened to pull her under. She turned to look at the festival, the laughter, the lights. She didn't want to cower in the shadow of someone who thrived on fear. Her ex scoffed, tilting his head. "You think you can walk away and just forget? I won't let that happen. I won't let you control me anymore," she shot back, surprising herself with the fierceness in her words. The crowd murmured, a ripple of support flowing through the curious onlookers. Their eyes seemed to say, "You can do it." Then, in a surge of courage, Sarah reached for John's hand and clasped it firmly. She felt a surge of warmth and solidarity travel from his palm to hers, stitching together the remnants of her broken spirit. "Now," she said, resolute. We're leaving. For good. She started to walk, pulling John along as she glanced over her shoulder at her ex, whose expression shifted to disbelief. Just remember, he shouted, his voice dripping with malice, you can't outrun your past. But Sarah turned away, her heart pounding not from fear, but from the liberation swelling within her. She had taken a step into the unknown, a place where she could carve out her own path. As they wove through the crowd, the laughter around them seemed to swell, lifting her spirits higher. Sarah kept her eyes forward, focused on the bright, colorful lights and the open future stretching ahead. But then another notification pinged on her phone. She hesitated, dread creeping back, but John squeezed her hand reassuringly. Together, they stopped. Just look, he said gently, his eyes searching hers. Taking a breath, she opened the message, and as she read it, her stomach dropped. I know what you're doing, and it's going to make things worse for you. Terror rolled through her again, but this time, it didn't feel suffocating. Instead, it felt like a storm brewing, ready to thrust her into her next battle. Would she face him again, or was there even more waiting behind that screen? The path ahead felt uncertain, but Sarah realized one undeniable truth: she was no longer the victim. And she was ready to fight for her freedom. What would she uncover next as she began this new chapter of her life? The festival lights flickered overhead, painting the sky in vibrant hues that should have felt joyful. But in that moment, Sarah felt suffocated by the weight of the message on her screen. What do they mean by worse? She whispered, her voice trembling. John studied her, his brows knitted with concern. Around them, laughter and music flowed, but it was just noise drowning out her rising panic. The world hadn't changed, but hers had cracked open, revealing shadows lurking just beneath the surface. It's just a threat, John reassured her, though the uncertainty in his tone suggested he wasn't entirely sure. You don't have to respond. We can just walk away, ignore it. But the words walk away felt heavy. Leaving wasn't that easy anymore. Sarah's heart raced as her ex's words echoed in her mind: you can't outrun your past. The truth loomed large, wrapping around her like a heavy cloak. I need to know what he wants, she said, her resolve hardening. I can't let him control me like this. John took a breath, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah saw a flicker of doubt in his steady demeanor. It was as if he was weighing her courage against the mounting risk. Are you sure? You don't have to face him alone. I'll be here. She felt the warmth of his hand in hers, grounding her as her mind spiraled. It was tempting to lean into that comfort, to let him shelter her from the storm outside. But deep down, she knew her journey was about facing those very demons that haunted her. Thank you, really, she replied, her voice quieter now. But this is something I need to do. I can't keep running. He nodded, resigned but supportive. All right, then. Just let me handle it if it gets too much. They stepped away from the noise of the festival and found a quieter corner where the lights dimmed, and shadows danced just outside the glow. She didn't want to get lost in darkness again. She had fought hard to emerge into the light. With a shaking hand, she replied to the message. What do you want? It wasn't much, but it was bold. She hit send, and a rush of adrenaline surged through her veins. Are you crazy? John exclaimed, glancing around, anticipating the fallout. What if he responds? Then I'll deal with it, she said, feeling more in control than she had in a long time. She remembered the strength that had surged through her when she defaced him earlier. Moments later, her phone buzzed again, vibrating against her palm like the rapid thump of her heart. She had half a mind to toss it away, but the curiosity twisted in her gut. What if it's something serious? She opened the message. We need to talk. I have something you should see. Meet me where it all began. Her blood turned to ice. The memories flooded back: the old house, the moments twisted in time she couldn't escape. No, not there. Sarah, what is it? John asked, his voice a low murmur that cut through her panic. It's south at his place, she whispered, her breath caught in her throat. He wants me to go back there. Absolutely not. John's voice was firm, but it was tinged with concern. You can't go back there. You know what might happen. She felt her stomach knot. The burning desire to confront her past collided with the paralyzing fear of losing herself in it again. But even amidst the whirlwind of anxiety, a flicker of resolve ignited. What did he want to show her? A part of her was terrified it was something that could pull her back, but it also felt like a chance to face it head-on. Just stay with me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't do this alone. Then we'll do this together, he affirmed, squeezing her hand tighter. I want to let you walk into that place without me. As they stood there, the vibrant chaos of the festival faded, leaving only an echo of laughter and a world painted in shadows. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to face what lay ahead. But as they turned towards the path leading to her ex's house, she knew one thing: the past would come alive in ways she never expected. What truths awaited her behind that door? The brisk air outside enveloped them like a shroud as Sarah and John walked toward her ex's place. Each step felt heavy, laden with dread and anticipation. Sarah's pulse throbbed in her ears, a constant reminder that she was about to face something she had buried deep for too long. Are you sure you want to do this? John asked, pausing to look at her. His eyes were filled with a mix of determination and worry. We can still turn back. The thought of running away flickered in her mind, a tempting escape route. But the image of her ex's smirk, that haunting presence that had followed her for years, shook her resolve. No. I need this. I need to prove I'm stronger than he thinks, she replied, her voice gaining strength. They reached the old, familiar house, its paint peeling and the yard overgrown, whispering secrets of the past. Memories surged: the laughter, the arguments, the warmth that had turned cold. Sarah felt her breath hitch as she glanced at John. He squeezed her hand tighter, a silent promise of support. What if he tries to manipulate you again? John asked, his voice low. He knows what buttons to push. She nodded, the fear clawing at her throat. I can't let him. I want tea. Her breaths came quicker, and she fought to calm the storm brewing inside her. With one last glance at John, she stepped onto the creaky porch. Each step echoed like a drumbeat in her chest. She raised her hand to knock but hesitated, the weight of everything she was about to confront almost overwhelming. Sarah. John gently pulled her back. Just remember, you're not alone. I'm right here. A small smile broke through her anxiety, warming her resolve. I know, she whispered. With newfound courage, she knocked. The door opened slowly, revealing a sight she wasn't ready for. Her ex stood there, wearing a smug expression that made her gut twist. You came, he said, his voice dripping with false charm. Let us just get this over with, Sarah replied, her tone steely. She stepped inside, John right behind her, a protective wall against her past. The air inside was stale, and the faint scent of mold clung to the walls. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. It felt as if the house itself was a living entity, watching, waiting. Her ex led them into the living room, a space filled with shadows, remnants of a once happy life. I have something I need to show you, he said, his tone suddenly serious. You might want to sit down. John shot Sarah a glance, his eyebrows furrowed. No, we stand, he interjected, his protective nature flaring up. Fine, her ex shrugged. But I think you'll want to see this. He pulled out a small, worn box and set it on the coffee table. Inside is something that will change everything. Sarah's heart raced. What could be inside? A part of her wanted to flee while the other part felt anchored to curiosity. She leaned forward, drawn in despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Open it, he urged, almost gleeful. She hesitated, battling the urge to slam it shut and run. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. It's the truth about us, he said, leaning closer. And you might not like what you find. Suddenly, the room felt much colder. The truth? The words sliced through her like ice. Memories of betrayal and heartache bloomed in her mind, fierce and painful. "Don't," John warned, stepping forward protectively. "Whatever this is, remember, it doesn't define you." But Sarah found herself entranced, her hand inching closer to the box. What could be so important? What lies had he buried? She turned to John, seeking the strength in his gaze. As she lifted the lid, the world around her dissolved into silence. All she could hear was the rustle of paper inside, the whispers of everything she had tried to forget. What would she discover about herself and the life she left behind? Would the truth set her free or trap her deeper in shadows? Her heart rate quickened, and she felt a surge of adrenaline and fear. Right then, she understood what was left inside that box could change everything forever. As Sarah lifted the lid, her fingers brushed against something cool and brittle. It was a stack of papers, yellowed with age and stained at the edges. Her heart pounded in her chest as she pulled one out, a sinking dread settling in her stomach. The first sheet was a letter, neatly typed but with her ex's polished signature scrawled below. "Read it," he taunted, a smirk dancing across his face. She glanced at John, whose brow furrowed deeper with concern. "You don't have to do this," he urged softly, but Sarah felt a strange compulsion to unveil whatever hidden truths lay within this box. She read the opening lines, her throat tightening as the words unfurled vivid memories she'd fought to forget. Each sentence dripped with manipulation, a sickly sweet charm that reminded her of everything she'd wanted to escape. "This doesn't mean anything," she whispered, trying to convince herself as she skimmed the letter. "Doesn't it?" he interjected, stepping forward, his shadow falling over her. "You were never strong enough to walk away. You always needed me." The venom in his voice twisted her insides. "I don't need you now. I have John." "Of course," he smirked, eyes glinting. "But you'll always carry these scars. That's the truth you can't escape." The sting of his words drove deep, cutting through her newfound confidence. She grabbed another paper from the box, feeling desperate to take control back. With each article she sifted through, it was as if she unearthed pieces of herself she thought buried a string of lies, promises twisted beyond recognition, and dark conversations that had eroded her spirit. She glanced at John. His concern morphed into something more fierce, a protective fire igniting. "Sarah, you got this," he urged, his voice steady. "These don't define you." But the memories surged, a tidal wave of insecurities and pain. What if he's right? She murmured, her voice hardly above a whisper. Sarah felt John's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Fear and rage danced behind her eyes. "You are not that person anymore," he reminded her. "You're here, fighting for what you want. That's who you are." She took a deep breath, allowing his warmth to seep into her bones, pushing back the darkness creeping in. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped a final document. It was a photo, the image worn and faded. She sucked in a breath, her heart stuttering. It was a picture of her smiling, full of light, standing next to her ex. But behind her was a shadow, a face obscured but familiar. "Who is this?" she asked, her pulse racing again. Her ex leaned forward, feigning innocence still, but she felt the tension radiating from him. "A friend," he replied dismissively, but something in his eyes troubled her. "That doesn't look like a friend," John said, stepping in, voice tinged with protectiveness. "You see," her ex said, amusement threading through his tone, "this was the beginning of everything, Sarah. A few strings you can tug on to unravel the whole story." Sarah's mind raced as a whirlwind of emotions, fear, anger, curiosity clashed within her. "What do you mean?" He shrugged, an unsettling glint in his eye. "You'll need to decide what you want to do with this information." Suddenly, the room felt smaller, the shadows creeping closer, invading her mind. She looked down at the box in front of her, each piece a puzzle she didn't want to solve. What if this is just another game? "I've played enough games," she murmured, barely believing the words that escaped her lips. "I want the truth even if it hurts." John's grip tightened, his unwavering support a lifeline. But could she handle what lay ahead? Could she face whatever came next? The photo slipped from her fingers, fluttering down like a fallen leaf. What had she really unwrapped? The truth, or just another layer of deception? The air was thick with unresolved questions, her heart urging her to seek answers, even as doubt loomed large. I need to know, she finally breathed, but deep down, a bitter fear twisted inside her. There was no telling what awaited her. The truth was just beginning to surface. What other secrets lurked in the shadows of her past? As she looked back at her ex, she wondered if unleashing this truth could grant her freedom or simply plunge her deeper into turmoil. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she stared at the photo, the smile frozen in time, a stark contrast to the chaos boiling inside her. She took a step back, feeling the weight of memories collide with the present. The image slipped from her fingers, but her eyes remained glued to the blank space where the unknown face had lingered, echoing questions that threatened to swallow her whole. Sarah, breathe, John said, his voice breaking through the fog. He stepped closer, urgency in his demeanor, drawing her attention back. Let us sort through this together. You're not alone. His presence felt like a tether, a vital reminder of the here and now. She met his gaze, searching for reassurance. What if this person, this shadow, is connected to him? What if he has been manipulating everything from the start? You're stronger than you think, he insisted, his conviction warming her like sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. This is just a piece of your past. It doesn't define your future. Taking a deep breath, she forced her eyes away from the photo, snatching another paper from the box in a moment of clarity. An article, featuring alarming headlines about mysterious disappearances in the area years ago. Each line seemed to dress her fears in a sharper outline. What is going on? John leaned over, reading the paper she clutched tightly, brows knitting together. Sarah, this isn't right. The room felt heavy, suffocating, and each word she read sent her spiraling deeper into anxiety. These articles, they're connected, John. I can feel it. I don't like this, he muttered, the tension in his voice rising. We need to get out of here. This is too much to handle. No, she replied fiercely, surprising even herself. I can't run away this time. Not again. John opened his mouth to protest but quickly shut it, recognizing the fire in her eyes. He reached out, squeezing her arm. Okay. But let us be smart about it. Gathering this information is one thing, but we need a plan. We have to protect you. She nodded, summoning her resolve as she continued flipping through the papers. A mix of dread and determination coursed through her. Each clattering page unveiled more darkness, more links to a past that felt like a noose tightening around her throat. Another letter, notes scribbled in the margins, names she didn't recognize. The pieces began to connect in disturbing ways, strings reaching out, wrapping around her like a web. It's all connected, she said, voice trembling. He's been pulling strings I didn't even see. John's eyes widened as he scanned the contents. What if this shadow is more dangerous than we imagined? We should go to the police. Panic whispered through her mind, but she shook her head again. I can't involve them. Not yet. I need to know what's true first before I let anyone else in. What about your safety? He challenged, desperation rising in his voice. This isn't just about you anymore. We're in this together. Sarah felt a rush of gratitude and fear. I need to face this. And I need you beside me. Their eyes locked, and within that moment of connection, she felt hope ignite. Together, they could peel back layers of lies, unraveling the truth hidden away far too long. But just as she steeled her resolve, her ex's voice cut through the heavy silence. You think this is a game, don't you, Sarah? He sneered, stepping closer, the confidence radiating from him almost palpable. You really have no idea what you're getting yourself into. The bile rose in her throat as she turned to confront him. No more games, she declared, heart racing. I demand to know everything. A decision hung in the air, charged with uncertainty. The journey was bound to test her, to lay bare every shadow she thought buried. Could she confront the hidden truths, or would they consume her anew? With a deep breath, Sarah knew one thing for sure: the battle for her freedom was only just beginning and the stakes were higher than ever. What would the truth reveal next? Sarah's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The tension in the room felt thick enough to cut with a knife. She faced her ex, every part of her urging her to stand firm, to be unyielding. His eyes sparkled with a mix of arrogance and something far colder, something that sent shivers down her spine. "Let me make this clear, Sarah," he said, stepping closer, invading her space. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. You should have left things well enough alone." John stepped in front of her, a protective stance that sent a wave of gratitude through her. "Back off," he warned, eyes narrowed. "She's done with you." The tension crackled in the air as Sarah felt John's solid presence beside her, grounding her. A strange sense of safety mingled with the fear gripping her. "I've had enough of living in fear," she said, surprising herself. "I deserve to know the truth." Her ex laughed, a harsh and hollow sound. "Oh, honey, the truth is a bitter pill to swallow. Are you ready for that?" "Whatever it is, I'll handle it," she snapped back, finding some long-buried strength. She refused to let him take away her voice again. "Bring it on." He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by her defiance. "You think you're brave, huh? Wanna play a game of secrets? Fine. Just remember," he leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper, "you'll wish you never started this." With that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, leaving the door swinging behind him. The moment his presence vanished, the weight in the room shifted. Sarah's breath came in shaky gasps as she processed what just happened. "Are you okay?" John asked softly, concern etched on his face. I will be," she managed, the fight leaving her legs weak. How had she ever let him get so close to her again? "But he knows something, John. I can feel it." "Then we need to dig deeper," he said, resolute. "Let us get back to that box." Nodding, she took a deep breath, collecting herself as they sifted back through the papers. Each item felt like it held the key to her freedom. The disappearance articles, the notes, they swirled around in her mind, creating a tapestry of fear and determination. As they laid out the articles across the table, Sarah felt an electric current in this new investigation. "Look at this," she said, pointing at one that had caught her eye. "This girl went missing just a few months before everything changed for me." John leaned closer, his expression serious. "Do you think there's a link?" "I can't shake the feeling," she replied, tracing a finger over the headline that sent chills racing down her spine. The girl had a similar background, similar interests. "It's as if our lives are woven together somehow, like strings in that web," I felt. "Then we find someone who can help us piece this together," John suggested, his voice low but steady, excitement creeping in. "Who?" she asked, feeling the familiar swell of uncertainty creep back in. "I can't involve the police. I don't trust them. There are people out there who deal with this sort of thing," he said. "Investigators. Someone who specializes in missing persons. They might know more about the connections." Her eyes met his, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "You mean it?" "Absolutely. But we need to be cautious," he reminded her. "We can't let him know we're getting closer." Just then, a sharp knock at the door startled both of them. The loud sound felt like a drumbeat in her chest. Her heart began to race again as dread pooled in her stomach. "Who is it?" Sarah called, glancing at John. "Open up," came a gruff voice from the other side, sending her instincts into overdrive. They exchanged worried glances. "Should we?" John whispered, tense. "Maybe it's just someone at the wrong house," she started, but the feeling nagged at her. "Let us not take chances," he said, edging closer to the door. "Get ready." As she moved to position herself behind him, Sarah's mind spun with anxiety. Who could be standing on the other side? And were they friend or foe? Before they could decide, the door swung open, and the neighbor from next door stepped in, panting as if he'd run a mile. You have to come quick. They're looking for you. The panic in his voice sent adrenaline surging through her. Who was looking for her? And what did they want? Who's looking? John demanded, stepping protectively in front of her. But the neighbor's eyes widened in terror. The police and someone else. They're asking questions. You need to disappear. Now. Sarah took a breath, her heart straining under the weight of everything. What had she stepped into? What was the next move? Okay, John said, as they both exchanged tense glances. We need to act fast. With uncertainty flooding back in, Sarah felt the edges of her world again blurring into chaos. What awaited them outside? And would this new threat finally reveal the truth she had desperately sought? As the gravity of their neighbor's words hit them, Sarah's heart raced even faster. The stakes had never felt so high, and the shadows of her past loomed large, threatening to engulf her. What do we do? She asked, panic on the edge of her voice. John's grip on her hand tightened, grounding her in the chaos. First, we need to pack a bag, he said, decisively. We can't stick around here. We'll find somewhere safe, and then we'll figure out our next move. Sarah nodded, adrenaline surging through her. They quickly moved through her home, gathering essentials with a frantic urgency. Each item stuffed into the backpack felt like a fragment of her past she had to lash on to a brighter future. She couldn't help but glance at the stack of papers they had unearthed her truth, her power, but also a magnet for danger. Should we take those? She asked hesitantly. Definitely, John affirmed. They're the key to everything you must know. They could lead us to real answers. They shoved the papers into the bag, and as the last document slipped inside, Sarah felt a flicker of strength. She was no longer just running away, she was running towards something bigger than herself, freedom. The urgency in the neighbor's expression brought her back from her thoughts. We need to go now, he said, his voice trembling. Shoo. Not so loud, John admonished. Let us not draw attention. With every muscle tense, they slipped out the back door, moving stealthily through the dimly lit yard. The air buzzed with the sounds of the festival still alive in the distance, a harsh contrast to the urgency of their escape. Where will we go? Sarah whispered as they ducked beneath a low-hanging branch. Her mind raced through options: friends, family, but those places came with their own risks. John paused, turning to her. I know a place we can stay, it's off the grid. We'll be safe there until we know more about what we're dealing with. As they sped through the shadows of the alleyway, Sarah's heart hammered not just with fear but with a new mission. Every step felt purposeful, like she was shedding chains that had held her back for too long. Just as they were about to reach a secluded street, sirens wailed in the distance, echoing through the cool night air. The unmistakable flicker of police lights darted through the darkness, drawing nearer. Sarah's pulse quickened, the weight of her father's message loomed heavy. They're looking for you. Quick, behind that fence, John urged, motioning to a nearby yard. They dove into a patch of overgrown bushes, the scent of wet earth soothing the panic that coursed through Sarah's veins. From their cramped hiding spot, they watched as flashing lights painted the carefully manicured neighborhood in harsh blues and reds. Shadows moved past, voices rising and falling. Where did she go? We need to find her, one officer said, urgency clear in their voice. Her heart sank, the fear returned but was quickly replaced by a fierce resolve. I want to let them find me, not again, she whispered fiercely. John squeezed her hand. They're just trying to protect you. If they knew the truth, maybe they wouldn't have to look for you. Maybe, but right now, I need to find out how connected all of this is, she replied, forcing herself to focus. Her mind raced, plotting their next steps. As the cop cars pulled away, they took their chance and bolted towards a nearby alley that led to the outskirts of town. Each step was fueled by a yearning for freedom, hope guiding them forward. When they reached the car John had waiting, a beat-up sedan that had seen better days, they dove in, breaths heavy but invigorated. Taking a deep breath, Sarah looked at John, who started the engine. What's next? She asked, wonder and fear mixing. First, we get to safety. Then we figure out who's behind all this, he replied, his voice steady with conviction. As they drove away, Sarah watched the town fade into the rearview mirror. It felt like she was pulling away from chains that had once defined her and toward a future where she held the reins. The weight of the papers, the flickering memories, and the haunting shadows swirled in her mind. But in this moment, with John beside her, the warmth of hope flickered bright. Together, they were no longer mere survivors, they were become warriors ready to unearth the truth and embrace transformation. What awaited them on the other side? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: she would face whatever came next with strength, courage, and a heart unbound. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to forge her way ahead into a new life, a life true to herself. Now more than ever, the time had come not just to run, but to rise. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on the rest of this incredible journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional roller coaster. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ultimate transformation.